I have it all. But no one truly loves him. Christopher King, the notorious real estate tycoon, believes that love is a lie. Amelia Brooks, a small but proud baker, is the only person who looks into his eyes and sees a lonely man, not a billionaire. A strange misunderstanding brings Christopher into Amelia's life, making him taste peace for the first time, simple but true things. But fate did not allow them peace for long. When the truth was revealed, Amelia felt like she was just a pawn in Christopher's lavish world. She hated lies, and he feared losing the only person who had truly seen his heart. Will Christopher dare to throw everything away to keep love? Or will he forever be a lonely man in a world of masked men? A story of love, betrayal, and a life-changing decision. Stay tuned when a lonely heart is lost in a sea of people. Christopher King stood on the top floor of the King Enterprises building, looking down at the busy traffic below. He had it all: money, power, fear, but no one really understands him. Christopher's life has long been surrounded by flattery and handshakes for benefits. Women surround him not because of who he is, but because of the billions of dollars he owns. Therefore, love is just a luxury for him, a pipe dream that he never believes in. But tonight, he just wanted to get away from it all. No designer suits, no bodyguards, no chauffeurs. Just him, wandering the back streets of Brooklyn, where nothing was flashy but felt strangely peaceful. Christopher didn't know why he stopped in front of a small bakery called Sweet Haven. The smell of baked goods wafting from inside made him step inside. Inside the bakery, warm lights illuminated the cakes neatly arranged on glass shelves. Behind the counter stood a young woman with curly brown hair and blue eyes that reflected the yellow light. She wore an old apron, and a few streaks of flour still clung to her cheeks, but her smile was brighter than any diamond Christopher had ever seen. Amelia Brooks was wiping her hands on her apron when a strange man entered. He was tall, wearing a simple hoodie, but there was something different about him. When their eyes met, Amelia frowned slightly. "Your eyes." Those were not the eyes of an ordinary man. They were deep and cold, but hidden within was a loneliness that she could not explain. "Hello? Can I help you?" she asked, her eyes never leaving him. Christopher blinked, pulled back to reality. He had never been seen through like that before. "It's just, I want a cup of coffee," he said, his voice slightly hoarse. Amelia nodded, quickly pouring coffee into a cup and placing it in front of him. "Long day today?" Christopher was taken aback. No one had ever asked him that before. "You could say that." He took a sip of coffee, the familiar bitter taste spreading on the tip of his tongue. Amelia propped her elbows on the counter, studying him more closely. "You don't look like someone who comes here often." Christopher chuckled. "You could say that." Amelia didn't ask further. She had met many customers in her life, but there was something about this man that intrigued her. The bakery was fairly empty. Amelia turned to the back of the kitchen to check on a batch of cookies that had just come out of the oven. Christopher was about to get up to leave, but then a scream rang out. "Oh no!" He turned around immediately. Amelia was standing there staring at the burnt cake in the oven, her face pale. "Damn, I just lost a batch of pre-ordered cakes," she muttered, biting her lip nervously. Christopher frowned. He had never been involved in anything like this before, but somehow he found himself unable to stand still. "Do you need any help?" he asked. Amelia looked at him for a moment, then sighed. "Do you know how to knead dough?" Christopher hesitated. He was a master negotiator, but kneading dough? Seeing him silent, Amelia laughed. "Come on, you can't be that bad." For some reason, at her smile, Christopher nodded. "Okay, just show me how." And so, the chairman of a powerful New York real estate corporation, who had never done any manual labor, stood in the kitchen, his hands covered in flour, trying to knead a rock-hard dough. Amelia couldn't help but laugh at his clumsiness. "You're such a disaster." Christopher could only smile bitterly. But strangely, This was the first time he felt relieved in many years. After an hour of struggling with the flour, Amelia looked at Christopher's finished product, a misshapen but at least usable mass of dough. She crossed her arms, thought for a moment, then suddenly said, "Do you want to work here?" Christopher almost dropped the flour. "What?" Amelia shrugged. "You look like you need a job. I'm short-staffed too." Christopher was stunned for a few seconds, then realized she really thought he was an unemployed guy. The thought crossed his mind that this might be the perfect opportunity for him to escape his world, at least for a little while. And so, the most powerful billionaire in New York looked at Amelia and smiled slightly. "Okay, I'll try." Now, the man who once stood at the pinnacle of power stood in the kitchen of a small bakery, wearing an apron and facing a ball of dough. "Are you ready?" Amelia asked, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Christopher looked down at his hands, where they were covered in flour. "I guess so." "Okay, lesson 1, kneading dough," Amelia emphasized. Christopher frowned. "Didn't I try last night? And that's why I have to teach you from scratch." He rolled his eyes, but bent down to follow her instructions. The dough was soft and sticky, but Christopher used too much force, causing it to deform miserably. Amelia laughed. "Stop! Are you wrestling with it?" "I've negotiated billion-dollar deals," Christopher muttered, "and now I get beaten by a lump of dough." Amelia pursed her lips to keep from laughing. "Yeah, because the dough doesn't care about your money." Christopher paused. Those words touched a dark corner of his heart. All his life he had lived among people who saw him only for his wealth and power. But here, in this small bakery, no one cared about that. Only Amelia, the girl who dared to speak directly to him in a way no one else had. Over the next few days, Christopher gradually got used to working in the bakery. At first, he was so clumsy that he knocked over a tray of cookies, almost burned a batch of cookies, and was grumbled by customers for his slow service. But Amelia was not upset. "It's okay. Everyone needs time to learn," she told him when he accidentally dropped a cake. No one had ever told him this before. In Christopher's world, mistakes meant failure. But here, mistakes were simply part of the process. Every morning, he helps Amelia prepare the ingredients. He learns how to listen to customers, how to make perfect cakes, and most importantly, he learns to enjoy the simple things. For Christopher, it was a different world. A world without tense meetings, prying eyes, or media pressure. For the first time in years, he felt at peace. One night, after Amelia closed the shop, Christopher stayed behind. He leaned back in his chair, staring into space. He had just attended a board meeting today where everyone expected him to make perfect decisions, with no room for error. The pressure weighed on his shoulders like an invisible rock. At this moment, Amelia walked out of the kitchen, holding a small cake with soft frosting in her hand. She set the cake down in front of him. "You look like you've had a bad day." Christopher did not answer, just remained silent. Amelia pulled up a chair and sat down across from him, propping her chin up to look at him. "You can pretend to be strong to the world, but you can't hide the sadness in your eyes." Christopher was stunned. "What are you running from, Christopher?" He stared at her. No one had ever asked him that question before. Throughout his life, he had to maintain a perfect facade. As the heir to the king's house, he was not allowed to show weakness. But Amelia saw through that mask with just one look. She doesn't care who you are. She only cares about his feelings. Christopher felt his chest tighten. The feeling was strange, but also real. From that day on, Christopher began to notice Amelia more. He noticed that every time she smiled, her eyes sparkled like thousands of little stars. He realized that she always took the time to listen to customers, remembering their every little preference. He realized that she not only loved baking, she loved the joy it brought to others. And most importantly, she was the only one who ever saw through his heart. One evening, as the bakery was about to close, Christopher asked, "Why did you open this bakery?" Amelia paused, smiling. Because I want to create a place where everyone can feel warm and happy. Christopher pondered. Warmth and happiness, two things he never really had in his life. But now, with Amelia, he began to feel them. Perhaps for the first time in his life, Christopher was no longer a loner. Christopher King never thought that one day he would find peace in a small bakery like this. From a president who only knew numbers and billion-dollar deals, he got used to making cakes, serving customers, and enjoying simple moments with Amelia. But Christopher's world doesn't allow him peace for long. One late afternoon, as he was cleaning the counter after closing time, the phone in his pocket vibrated continuously. "Christopher, what the hell are you doing?" The urgent voice of Richard, his close assistant, rang out as soon as he picked up the phone. "What is up?" "A reporter is after you. He has a picture of you at the bakery and is investigating why a real estate corporation president is working there. If this gets out, you know the consequences." Christopher clenched his phone, his eyes darkening. He knew well that the media would not leave him alone if they found out he was working at a small bakery, especially when he was at the center of a series of economic and political news. If the truth were revealed, it would not only affect his reputation, but could also drag Amelia into a vicious circle of public opinion. That evening, Christopher mused about his old rented apartment near the bakery for convenience. But instead of going inside, he went straight to the rooftop. The night wind was cold, but not as cold as the pressure pressing down on his shoulders. He wondered, am I being selfish? He came to the bakery just to find some peace, but inadvertently, he may have dragged Amelia into a dangerous situation. If the media finds out the truth, they won't leave her alone. They'll dig up her past, fabricate stories, and turn Amelia into part of their power play. Christopher closed his eyes, a feeling of helplessness filling his heart. "You don't have to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders." A gentle voice came from behind. Christopher opened his eyes, turned around, and saw Amelia standing there. She crossed her arms, looking at him worriedly. "Why are you here?" he asked. "I went to the bakery but didn't see you, so I figured you were here." She stepped closer. "Are you okay?" Christopher was silent. Amelia looked straight at him, then softly said, "You can be strong in front of the whole world, but in front of me, you don't need to be that way." Christopher's heart stopped. No one ever told him this. Throughout his life, he was always taught that a person like him must always be strong, must control everything, must not be allowed to make mistakes. But Amelia saw something no one else saw. "Sometimes, just having a place to breathe is enough," she continued. Christopher looked at her, filled with emotions he couldn't even name. They stood there, under the night sky, with only the sound of the wind blowing through the roof. Amelia gently took Christopher's hand. "No matter who you are, no matter what your past is, I will still be here," she said. Christopher squeezed her hand gently, as if it was his only support at the moment. He wasn't sure he could protect Amelia from the harsh world out there, but one thing he was sure of: he will not let her go. Everything came to light early one morning. Amelia had just opened the bakery when she saw a strange envelope sitting right in front of the door. She bent down to pick it up, her eyes filled with curiosity. Who would send a letter this early in the morning? But when Amelia opened it, inside was a newspaper and a clearly printed photo. The bold headline on the front page made her stop. "Christopher King, chairman of King Enterprises, is dating the small bakery owner?" The accompanying photo shows Christopher standing behind the bakery counter, his eyes looking tenderly at her as they make cakes together. Amelia felt her heart being squeezed. She skimmed through the article. Everything is there. Christopher King, 35 years old, chairman of King Enterprises, one of the most powerful men in real estate. Not an unemployed guy looking for a job. Not a simple person like she thought. Amelia couldn't believe her eyes. For weeks, she had believed that Christopher was just a man looking for a regular job. She had thought that there was a genuine connection between them, a true friendship. But it turned out, it was all a lie. "No way," she whispered, her hands clenching the newspaper. She felt betrayed. It felt like everything they had ever shared was gone. Warm moments, all-night stories, times he looked at her with eyes that she thought were real. It's all just a play. Just then, the shop door opened. Christopher walked in. He was wearing a black shirt. His face looked a little tired, but when he saw Amelia, he immediately realized something was wrong. She stood there, her eyes cold, her hands still clutching the newspaper. Christopher understood at a glance what had happened. "Amelia, can you explain?" "Explain?" Her voice trembled. "You lied to me." Christopher opened his mouth, but Amelia held up the newspaper, her eyes filled with pain. "You are not an ordinary guy. You are the one who can take everything away from me." Christopher paused. He had never seen Amelia so angry. "Amelia, I didn't mean to lie to you. I just wanted a place where I could be myself, without being judged by money or power." Amelia chuckled. "So you think pretending to be unemployed is the best way? Do you know how much I trusted you?" She stopped, her eyes red. Christopher took a step forward, wanting to touch her, but Amelia stepped back. "You lied," she whispered. "I hate lies." Christopher looked at her, his heart filled with regret. "I didn't want you to know who I was, because I was afraid." He swallowed. "I was afraid you would see me like everyone else. Only see the money, the power, and never see the real me." "And that gives you the right to lie to me?" Amelia asked back. Christopher was silent. She shook her head, trying to control her emotions. "Why me, Christopher?" Her voice trailed off. "Of all the millions of people out there, why did you choose me to test this game on?" He looked into her eyes that were once full of trust, now filled with hurt. "Because you were the first one to see me," Christopher said softly. "You saw through me, Amelia. When everyone else was only concerned with money and status, you were the only one who asked what I was running from." She clenched her fists, feeling her chest tighten. She believed him, thought there was something really special between them. But how can she believe now? "Amelia," Christopher tried to say something, but she took a step back. She needed space. She needed time to breathe. "You can have everything, Christopher." Her voice caught. "But I'm just a baker. We don't belong to the same world." Christopher felt a sharp pain in his chest. He couldn't let her go. He didn't care about his world or hers. He only knew that when Amelia left, he felt like he was losing the most precious thing. He started to step forward, but Amelia turned away. "Don't look for me," she whispered, before pushing the door open and walking out of the bakery, leaving Christopher standing there, feeling like his whole world had just collapsed. The door slammed shut. For the first time in his life, Christopher King felt helpless. You can buy a whole city, you can build skyscrapers, you can control a whole real estate market. But he could not keep the girl he loved. Christopher had never felt so helpless. For the past few days, he couldn't focus on anything. Every shareholder meeting, every billion-dollar contract. It all became meaningless when Amelia was no longer by his side. But what's the worst? He was about to destroy the only thing she held dear. Shopping center expansion project, a grand scheme of King Enterprises, was ready. And if it was deployed, Amelia would lose her bakery. I can't let that happen. That afternoon, Christopher walked into the conference room where major shareholders were waiting for him to sign an important contract. All are excited. "We will do at least $200 million in the first year," one of them said. Christopher looked down at the document, then slowly closed it. "This project will not continue," he said firmly. The whole conference room fell silent. An angry shareholder. "What did you say?" Christopher took a deep breath, his eyes filled with determination. "I can earn billions of dollars, but I can't find someone like her a second time." Shareholders were stunned. They don't understand. But for Christopher, he had never felt so certain as he did now. He is willing to give up everything for the girl he loves. That night, the rain poured down on the city, as if to release all the suppressed emotions. Amelia was cleaning the bakery when she heard a knock on the door. She turned back, and her heart stopped in her chest. Christopher was standing there, in the pouring rain. His shirt was soaked, his hair was plastered to his forehead, but his eyes still shone with intensity. Amelia felt her heart tighten. "Christopher," she whispered. But before she could say anything, he knelt down right in front of the bakery. She gasped, "What are you doing?" Christopher looked up, rain streaming down his face, but his eyes did not waver. "If you don't need me to be rich," his voice was hoarse with emotion, "then can I just be a man who loves you?" Amelia stood there, her whole body frozen. She wanted to be angry with him. She wanted to tell him how much his lies had hurt her. But when I looked into his eyes, they were filled with sincerity and regret. She understood that he never intended to hurt her. Christopher did not lie to deceive her. He just wanted to be in love for once in his life, without money coming between them. Amelia felt tears mixing with the rain on her cheeks. "Why are you doing this?" she whispered. Christopher took her hand, squeezing it as if he was afraid she would disappear. "Because I love you," he said, his voice breaking. "Not because you're special in the way the world defines you, but because you're special to me." Amelia looked at him, her heart finally accepting the truth. She doesn't love Christopher because he is a billionaire. She loves him for who he is. Slowly, she knelt down before him in the rain. Christopher looked at her, surprised. Amelia smiled through her tears. "If you're willing to risk everything for me," she whispered, "then I can forgive you." Christopher couldn't wait another second. He pulled her into his arms, and they kissed in the rain. A kiss with no more secrets, no more barriers. Things don't change overnight. It still takes Amelia time to believe that Christopher truly loves her for who she is. But Christopher was in no hurry. He was with her every day, helping her in the bakery, learning how to knead dough properly, even helping her experiment with new recipes. And one day, he gave her a piece of paper. Amelia opens and stunned. It was a bakery expansion deal, but not in the way she thought. Christopher didn't want to turn it into a big chain. He just wanted to help her have a larger, more comfortable space while still maintaining the inherent warmth. He smiled. "We don't need to change each other. Just loving each other is enough." Amelia looked at him, then smiled. Maybe this is true love. Not lavish gifts, not fancy dinners. Simply someone willing to give up everything just to be by her side. On the opening day of the expanded bakery, Christopher stood behind the counter, wearing an apron like a real employee. "What are you doing?" Amelia laughed as she saw him fumbling with a cake. Christopher shrugged, smiling mischievously. "Give your wife a hand." Amelia blushed. "What did you say?" Christopher looked at her, then pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. He knelt down, this time not in the rain, but in the warm light of the bakery, where they found each other. "Will you marry me, Amelia?" She smiled, tears rolling down her cheeks. She didn't need to think. The answer has always been there. "Yes." And as Amelia held Christopher, in the air filled with the scent of pastries, she knew that true love didn't need money. Just seeing each other's hearts was enough. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this story. If you like this story, don't forget to like to support the channel and subscribe so you don't miss any stories.